And a good midday Sunday, Roger Hill with the VELCO Weather Hazards Outlook. Big picture, looking at the country, we have most of the jet stream energy and storm traffic basically on the west coast. Some of that has worked into parts of Canada, mostly central and western Canada. And cold temperatures still reside in some locations here along the west coast. This has been pumping up a ridge of higher pressure. And consequently, we're looking at some pretty good weather here, generally quiet weather for much of the week, but we'll see an increase of a couple different weather systems. One that's going to be forming here off the coast of Florida, work its way into the Carolinas, and then work its way up the eastern seaboard. Meanwhile, this storm system is going to work into eventually parts of Canada and then bring us a frontal boundary that's going to get awful close. And eventually we're going to see an area of higher pressure then track across Canada, and that's going to lower the temperatures kind of bleeding in from the north on a kind of a north to northeast wind. That could set up a little bit of mixed precipitation, but also a little bit of snowfall as we head into the later part of the week. And looking at the computer modeling world here, this is our leftovers of the system that moved through since last night. We have this area of ridging of higher pressure that's bringing us some pretty good weather here. 1043, as a matter of fact, up here in the areas around eastern Quebec, Labrador. That's ridging southward, and this is good through Sunday night into Monday. You can see that ridging, 1033 high off the eastern coast of Maine. And we're starting to see the formation of this weather system here along with that front, and a lot of that jet stream energy again going into Canada instead of just about due east. Consequently, it's building up that ridge of higher pressure. We're seeing warmer than normal weather conditions, relatively mild, but eventually some rain will move on in with this system here. This is the GFS ensemble, the European on this side. And we have this big, broad area of higher pressure building across Canada with some much colder air. Now, eventually, we're going to see rain showers during the day on Wednesday and into Wednesday night, change over to a little bit of wet snow shower activity. The GFS ensemble is a little bit more further to the north, as typically, and this may be a factor in just how high the intensity of these areas of higher pressure up to the north of us will be, the 1040 versus 1037. So we'll be watching that, but my suspicions are that the European is wrong on this. The GFS ensemble is closer, and this will be shooting northward and eventually producing some snow, kind of a transition of rain and snow. And then as we get into Thursday, it's going to probably melt back a little bit, and then eventually we're going to see leftovers even during the day on Friday. That kind of pulls away. Not much of a break, though. And then beyond the period here, we got this slightly lower latitude jet stream energy that is going to make it into the area via the Ohio River Valley and eventually push in some rain that will transition to snow, maybe some mixed precipitation types. So a little bit more snow on the ground. This is valid around the 10th of Sunday, well beyond the period. That basically works its way out of here, and we'll probably be left with a little more snow, snowfall as it looks right now, and snow depths. Looking at the GFS ensemble centered on Montpelier's grid, what you can see is relatively dry weather or dry stretch of weather. And then as the rain showers begin to move into the region on Tuesday afternoon, that lingers, and then we got probably the bulk of which will happen on Wednesday into Thursday. And then a little bit of a decrease, and again, some business headed as we head into the later period, Friday and beyond. Now, that's the 3-hourly QPF. The total amounts of precipitation look like this, and we're eventually looking at greater than 1 inch amounts working into the region, so a little heftier amounts of precip. The latest deterministic model of the GFS looks like that. What kind of precipitation? Well, it's going to be a whole kind of mix here. We got precipitation types all over the place. So once we get into basically a Wednesday night and beyond, we're probably leaning a little bit more in the wet snow category versus rain as the rain begins to drop off. A little bit of lesser amounts of precip by the time we get into Friday, but then that next weather system pushing in with more jet stream energy coming out of the Pacific will work into the region beyond this outlook period. We're talking beyond Saturday morning. Through the outlook period, I'm not seeing anything that's going to go above 40 knots, so this is the 850 hectopascal wind fields about the top of Mount Mansfield. We're looking good in that department there. For the next 7 days, beyond the outlook period, this is our Weather Prediction Center accumulated precipitation, or QPF, and you can see that the heavier precip is off to the south of the region. So more rainfall is indicated for southern Vermont than northern Vermont, least amounts up into parts of Canada. And we have anomalous warmth that stretches all the way from the desert southwest all the way into eastern Canada. Colder weather coming in out of Alaska. Eventually that's going to mix in mostly to the north of our region. So that means that we're looking at the coldest anomalies up east of the Rockies in the Alberta, Saskatchewan region. And warmer than normal conditions up in our neck of the woods is that ridge of higher pressure, and the prevailing jet stream brings some very warm conditions off of Mexico. 3 days later, not a whole lot of change at that point. And at 11:30 this morning, this is our current temperatures, hitting 50 degrees at St. Johnsbury where the sun is broken out. And that includes some the tops of the Green Mountains, some low-level moisture on the western side of the state, a little bit of a different look. That's it from here, Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights. Thanks for watching.